Okay, everyone. So in this next lesson, let's try to talk about how we can try to output some information in our browser. So far, we did use the echo statement already, and you would see this is what we're able to see right now on the browser PHP version. We're able to get that 8.2.0, and we also have the line break element that allows us to have a line break, and we have the hello world, which is a basic convention for most of programmers. We usually use hello world when we're trying to test things out in a new language that we're learning, just to prove that we have been able to utilize that first language or the language that we are trying to learn. And in PHP, we do have what we call another way to print out some statements in our browser. One will be the echo statement, and the other one will be the print statement. So in succeeding lessons that we'll be having, we will be using most of the time echo here. But just have that in mind, we can also use print statements to print out most information. So basically, if I wanted to print PHP version here, let's see. Let's just try to test this out. Print PHP version. Will this work? And we'll have to make sure that we do have a semicolon at the end, because it's like in the English language, you have to make sure that you end your sentences with a period. And one thing that you would notice, when I was not using this, and I had this semicolon not available there, at the end of the scripts or the lines of code that we've written in PHP, we're not encountering any error here. Let's just look into it so we can see that there's no error happening. However, if we add another line of code here that specifies, let's see, you would see we are already encountering an error here. And we can just say that let's use the print statement to print the version number of PHP here. Okay, so let's have this. And you'll see we're encountering an error. And if we try to go back to our browser, you'll see we now have a parsed error, syntax error, unexpected token, print expecting a semicolon or this comma here. So those are, and it's giving us a verbose information of what error that we're encountering. And this is really a big part of becoming a developer, guys, you being able to debug things. So I think most of the time this is going to be one of our biggest role or job, how you will be debugging things. So it's good that you get to read and see some errors that we can then try to figure out together. So right now we do know that this is on line 49, and we do have our line 49 here, and we know that this might be an issue of a semicolon or a syntax error that we are encountering here. And you would see we are not able to do it with a string data type. But if we try to remove, we'll talk more about data types as we move forward, but let's just use this PHP version, similar PHP version that we are printing out on the echo statement here. And let's just see if this is going to work. And let's first end it with a semicolon. Let's just go back to our browser and check. You will see we are able to print it out here. And if I go just to have a line break again, and then let's have a print statement here that says that we would want to have a, or let's just have a print statement here that prints out hello world. This is a print statement that prints out my PHP version. And let's end that. Again, we need to have a semicolon at the end just to see what are we going to get. Hello world, this is a print statement that prints out my PHP version 8.2.0. And again, just to add some space here and just to see, rather than dot, perhaps we can say colon here, just to have that so we can see it's getting printed out exactly the same way on how we are working with the echo statement. And I think we can also leave this out because this is going to be the last line of code instruction that we're giving the computer here for what we want to accomplish. So I think we can also leave that out. Let's just for proof of concept, and you'll see we're not encountering any error. However, if we have another statement like this, you would see it's encountering an error. And PHP is a little bit stricter than JavaScript when it comes to semicolons. So just have that in mind. If you have some background already with JavaScript, that's something that you might notice when you're already learning the PHP language. So before we proceed here, I just want to go and try to add another folder. Let me just call this output lesson. I think this is already lesson on echo, or let's just say echo print, just so that we'll have some sort of a output statements dot php, just to at least we'll have multiple pages that we'll be working on, and we can have some sort of a way to link that just to practice how are we going to go to the paths. Let's just call this, let's just see, we're not going to make any error here. Echo print, let's have this output statement.php, and this is going to be lesson 7, right? Lesson 7, output or echo and print statements. Let's see and check that out on our browser. Then let's go back here. We have lesson 7 and it's not found. What will be the issue here? Output statement.php. Statements. It should be statements. So those are some things that we can notice when you're working with a programming language. You have to be really precise with what you're with the instructions that you're giving the computer, or else it will run into some sort of an error. And let's see, let me just check, refresh, lesson 7, and we now have that. However, we're not seeing anything inside of it. So let's have some HTML5, and let's just say that this is going to be lesson 7, print or echo and print statements. So, and let's have an H1 echo things to know about the echo and print statements. So basically, these are almost the same commands, or these are ways on how we can try to output data in PHP. There are certain similarities, so let's just talk about some of them, just to at least you will be able to be aware that these are some things that we can try to work with when we are working with both of these statements. And let's try to work on creating some examples here. Let's just go first check. If I try to refresh this, we now have that line of text that tells us things to know about the echo and print statements. So let's have an H2 here, and let's just say echo statements. So there are some differences between these two. So we have the print statement and we have the echo statements. Echo statements, let's talk about comments. Let's just put some comments here. In PHP, we can also write some comments, and I think we can have that in here and here. Let's have a comment here. Echo statements, things to know. Okay, so comments are, again, will not be rendered on the browser if you have some background with HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. So this is a single line statement, and we can also have a multi-line statement, or let's say comments. So this is a single line comment, and this is how we can create a multi-line comment in PHP. And let's just have here some things to know about the echo statement is that it has no return value. Okay, and echo can also take multiple parameters. So let's see some examples on how this can be used. Even though this is not a common thing, but it's possible if you're working with the echo statement. So let's just first try to refresh this. We have echo statements and print statements. And let's just go back here. And let's try to have here echo with this. And let's try to test out, can we use the function invocation operators? So we know that parentheses are commonly used for functions. Just have that in mind. We'll be talking about functions as we go along with some more lessons. But for now, let's just say that H3, this is an echo statement with parentheses. And let's have another echo statement. H3, or let's just say P. I think we can use paragraph here and echo out a paragraph tag. And same here, let's have P. I think this will work. Let's cross our fingers. And this is an echo statement without parentheses. So parentheses. And let's end this with semicolon. And let's see. We're encountering an error here. So I think, can we use it without, or should we have this here and this one here? Let's see. PHP echo statements. We do have our semicolon, but why are we encountering an error here? Let me just see. That's odd. Output one or more string. Let's first try to see what that will be doing. On line 18, unexpected token. Okay, that means, can we put this in here and then end it with a semicolon? And there we go. So that means we put the X inside of the open and close parenthesis, the paragraph. What are we going to get? This is an echo statement without parentheses, and this is an echo statement with parentheses. This is an echo statement with a parenthesis, and this one without a parenthesis. And you'll see that's still working. Okay, let me just try to refresh this and see. This is an echo statement with parentheses. This is an echo statement without parentheses. So one thing that you would notice here is that we can have in the echo statement some markup language like the one that we have here, the paragraph tag. And we can also have echo, just say line break. Let's have a line break. Let us have a line break here. And we can have that PR tag and then end that statement. So this is a string data type enclosed inside of those double quotes. And we're ending the statement telling that this is the end of the sentence that we're going to be creating, or the instruction that we're going to be giving the computer here. And we can also echo out, as we talked about earlier, we can take multiple parameters. So that means this example has a lot of parameters that we can use. Let's just test this out. Is this going to work? That we can use to display. Let me just use here Alt Z to have a word wrap. In Visual Studio Code, you have that option to use Alt Z so that we can have word wrap, and the text won't be going outside of the screen here. Display. Strong that we can use to display multiple parameters. And let's see, will this work? Let's go back to our browser, refresh, and now let us have a line break here. This example has a lot of parameters that we can use to display multiple parameters. And I think we just need to have some text here that will be separating those, and has a lot of parameters that we can use to display multiple parameters. And some extra spaces that we can try to add just so that the text won't be beside one another. So now let's try to just view how the print statement will work. And let's go down here and let's have the same thing here. You'll see I'm going to enclose again the opening and close, or we will be using the opening and the closing tag PHP tags. And we can also use print here with parentheses or without parentheses. So if I go and try to say that, let's have can we use HTML markup also? this is a print statement with parentheses. And let's close that. And in here, let me just go copy this and just replace the echo print here. This is an echo or print statement without a parenthesis. Will that be working? Let's see and refresh. This is a print statement with parentheses. This is a print statement without parentheses. So that means proof of concept we can use with or without the parentheses. In here we passed in the data type string with the markup language paragraph and then the characters for each of the words of the string data type that we have that are enclosed in the double quotes, and we're passing it inside of the function invocation operators. And I think that's it for this video. I hope you got the idea that we can contain paragraph elements inside of a print statement. We can have the markup and the data type inside of parentheses or without the parentheses, similar with the echo statement. And just take note that print statements can also have return values. It has a return value of 1. That's why we can use print statements in expressions when we are trying to write expressions in the PHP language. We'll talk more about those as we try to move forward with some more examples. And I think that's it for this video. And I hope you got the idea here. Let's just go and try to refresh our browser. We can always go back here and we now have our lesson 7 and we have the following text and we're not encountering any error. So thank you and see you in our next videos.